"Mom, please don't answer the door." That was the last text message my son Brian sent me. I read it too late. By then, a man carrying a folder of documents was already standing on my front porch. Within minutes, I learned that the house my husband Thomas and I had called home for more than 40 years no longer legally belonged to our family. First, I thought there had to be some kind of mistake. "I'm sorry," I said. "You must have the wrong address." The man gently shook his head. "No, Mrs. Carter. I'm here to prepare the property for its new owner. The transfer is scheduled for next week." For a moment, everything around me seemed to fade away. I had spent 42 years in that house. It was where Brian grew up. It was where Thomas and I celebrated birthdays, Christmas mornings, anniversaries, and dreamed about growing old together. I grabbed my phone and called Brian immediately. He didn't answer right away. When he finally picked up, he quietly said, "Mom." The sound of his voice told me everything. "Tell me this man is wrong," I whispered. The silence that followed felt endless. "I was going to tell you later." My hands went cold. "Tell me what?" He took a deep breath. "The house has been sold." I honestly thought I had misheard him. "What are you talking about?" "It's true." "But how?" Brian sounded calm, almost as if he had rehearsed the conversation. "You and Dad kept saying the house was too big. It costs too much to maintain. I thought this would be better for everyone." I switched the call to speaker so Thomas could hear. My husband listened quietly before asking one simple question. "Did you ever stop to ask what we wanted?" Brian didn't answer immediately. Finally, he said, "I thought you'd understand once everything was finished." The next day we met with an attorney. That's when we learned something neither of us had fully understood. Several years earlier, after Thomas had experienced serious health problems, we had signed legal documents allowing Brian to handle certain financial matters if necessary. We trusted our son completely. We never imagined those documents could be used to complete the sale of our home without us standing beside him. Everything had been done legally, but that didn't make it feel right. A few days later, Brian came to see us. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. "I know you'll never forgive me." Thomas looked at him calmly. "This isn't about the house. It's about the fact that you decided our future without ever talking to us." That's when Brian finally told us the truth. He had been hiding serious financial problems for months. He truly believed that selling the house would solve everything. His plan was to buy us a smaller home closer to where he lived once his situation improved. In his mind, he was protecting his family. But real protection doesn't begin with paperwork. It begins with a conversation. We didn't forgive him that day. Or the week after. Trust doesn't return because someone says they're sorry. Months later, Brian canceled the sale. It cost him nearly everything he had saved, but he did everything he could to bring our home back to us. The day he walked through our front door again, Thomas smiled for the first time in a long while. "Come in." Brian looked at him without saying a word. Then Thomas quietly said, "Remember this, son. A house can be sold and bought again. Trust can't." From that day on, Brian never made another important decision for us without sitting down and talking first. And now I know something I wish we'd understood years ago. The strongest families aren't held together by signatures. They're held together by conversations people are brave enough to have before it's too late.